And welcome back to Reunited States, the podcast where we aim to bring back reasonable discourse into our national dialogue. From Los Angeles, California, my name is Tyler Ehrig.
And from Manchester, New Hampshire, my name is Jesse Saywell.
And we have a good episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about TikTok, finally. But we'll start, as we always start, with some lightning news. In a joint effort by the US, Egypt, and Qatar, we have finally negotiated a ceasefire deal between Israel and Palestine, bringing a much-needed halt to the deadly conflict that has claimed countless innocent lives. We are very happy about that. But an important note, Trump did not make this happen, no matter how many times he may want to claim that he does, and he will, well, already has.
The Senate began confirmation hearings on Trump's cabinet appointments. Pete Hegseth, who is nominated for defense secretary, was grilled about the many accusations of drunkenness, domestic abuse, and offensive comments about women and minorities that he has made in the past. In his time as a Fox News commentator, in spite of all of this, he looks likely to be confirmed by the GOP-led Senate. Apparently, they have heard all they need to hear. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Definitely, probably a Nazi.
Very, very, very likely that he is. I just, wow. This is the world we're living in, folks. Elections have consequences.
Mm-hmm. Meta recently updated their content moderation policies, something we will get into a little later, to allow for more, and I quote, free speech, and have eliminated their fact-checking team from platforms like Facebook and Instagram. So, onto our main topic, and I wanted to start here because, again, I've been waiting for quite a while to talk about the TikTok ban. It looks like it's going to go into effect almost definitely on the 19th of January, which at the time of this recording is 4 days from now. They heard arguments on the basis of First Amendment violations on the 10th, which, according to reports, did not fare well with, didn't seem to have fared well with the Supreme Court. And if you ask me, that's not really a surprise. I don't think that the First Amendment argument was particularly a strong one. The First Amendment's really meant to protect Americans' right to speak out against the government, not really say whatever you want. That's kind of like the misinterpretation a lot of people have on First Amendment rights. Like, it's really more about, like, am I allowed to say the president sucks? Not like, am I allowed to, curse in a school? So when they came with this argument to, on grounds of First Amendment, I was very surprised. I'm like, I don't see how banning an app really infringes on any American's ability to, speak out against the government. Bit of a flop there, if you ask me, on the defense team here with TikTok.
Absolutely. I feel vindicated by the Supreme Court's arguments relating to this, or their rejection of the arguments relating to this. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to share, but I certainly want to hear your perspective on this and get better insights into why you are opposed to the ban, with an understanding and a recognition of the fact that I know that I am certainly in the minority among people our age and younger relating to this potential, what I want to call a forced sale, because that's really what it is. Like, let's just put that out there. We can call it a ban for the duration of this conversation, but let's at least acknowledge that this is a forced sale that they're refusing to sell. Not a ban, per se. It is a forced sale, and as such, they are violating that law that has been passed now, and insist upon not selling, which is going to lead to it being banned. But I want to be enlightened. I want to hear the arguments, because I have yet to hear arguments that have remotely swayed me from my kind of general position on this, which, again, I recognize is an unpopular position. So I want to hear what you have to say. And as we should in our national dialogue, we should be having civil discussion.
I want to start my segment here looking closely at the bill itself and the language therein. In reviewing it, in reviewing the history and reasoning, the forces behind this bill, I believe there to be a lot of nuance behind it that I think brings out a much darker underbelly of like what's going on behind this and what this might mean for Americans. Firstly, let's look at the bill itself. The Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act was sponsored by now retired, Republican Representative of Wisconsin, Mike Gallagher, who, if you do not know, looks like what you'd get if you took Sean Connery and sucked every last drop of testosterone out of him. Quite literally a Temu James Bond. But let's look at the language in the bill, because it is egregiously and suspiciously specific. Firstly, the general language indicates that it shall be unlawful for any entity to distribute, maintain, or update a foreign adversary-controlled application. This includes any marketplace that hosts the application, such as the Google Play Store, App Store, and any internet hosting service that allows for the app to be downloaded or used. This will be any internet provider, including, from my understanding, including VPNs, which also allow for the same thing if something is hosted in a different country. Now, the meat of the bill is in the definitions within this general language. So we're going to look at that really quick. Foreign adversaries are listed as the following. There are only 4 of them: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Easy enough. Controlled by a foreign adversary refers to a foreign person that is domiciled in, headquartered in, or has a principal place of business in, or is organized under the laws of a foreign adversary country. Again, one of those 4 aforementioned. This also includes any combination of people in which at least one person with a 20% stake in a company meets the aforementioned requirement. This is where you're going to have to look at boards of directors, co-CEOs, etc. Seems pretty broad. Almost weirdly broad, right? Well, it gets more specific. And if you want to look at TikTok as an example, everyone says, oh, TikTok, the guy's Singaporean. That is correct. TikTok is owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is headquartered in Beijing, hence China, hence adversary country. But the definition of covered company is where it gets interesting. A covered company is specifically, as worded in the bill, an application or website that permits a user to create an account or profile to generate, share, or view text, images, videos, real-time communications, or similar content. 2, has more than a 1 million monthly active user base. 3, enables one or more users to generate or distribute content that can be viewed by other users. And 4, enables one or more users to view content generated by other users of the application. Now, if you're hearing this and thinking, well, that just sounds like the definition of a social media platform, well, you'd be correct. It is. Because there are over 200 companies that do business in the US that fulfill the definitions of being controlled by a foreign adversary, but only 6 likely meet the user requirement to fall under the actual ban. 5 of them you've probably never heard of. Things like WeChat, Kwai, Weibo, Qzone, Xiaohongshu, which most people know as RedNote. The unnamed app, of course, the biggest one being TikTok. So, despite the fact that we have tons of companies owned by China, controlled by China, operating in the US with tons of users, these are apps like Temu, like Alibaba, anything that would have been made by Tencent. Those apps will likely not see any action taken against them when you read the definitions laid out in this bill. And finally, the phrase foreign adversary controlled application, it might be a little confusing because I kind of defined parts of that earlier, but the actual phrase foreign adversary controlled application has 2 specific definitions within the bill. The first, as you might guess, is a covered company that is controlled by a foreign adversary. Easy, makes sense. We've already defined those 2 concepts, it's clear. But the phrase has a second explicit definition. And that definition is ByteDance, TikTok, a subsidiary or successor to ByteDance or TikTok that is controlled by a foreign adversary, or an entity owned or controlled either directly or indirectly by ByteDance or TikTok. Now, why is this important? Well, let me ask you a question. Why is TikTok, its parent company, its subsidiaries, and potential future subsidiaries being specifically identified as the definition of foreign adversary-controlled application, when any other app merely falls into the catch-all secondary definition? Wouldn't TikTok also fall under that catch-all definition? I mean, it would, but it's because TikTok is the target of this bill. And here's where we finally get into my point. This is not about safety. This is not about free speech. This is not about the protection of consumer data or the manipulation of information highways on social media. No, this is about money. This is about capitalism. This bill, this entire endeavor, is nothing but a corporate hit job aimed to strike down a foreign company that has an unprecedented hold on the US market. This bill is not written in good faith. It is not written to protect Americans, because a ban on TikTok will do two things. One, it will severely financially impact the lives of thousands, if not millions, of Americans who make a living off of the videos they produce on the platform. And two, it will raise the market value of TikTok's US competitors, which, let's be honest, there's really only one, Meta. Meta will gain a ludicrous amount of market value when its main competitor instantly dies. Mark Zuckerberg will be lining his pockets with money, an obscene amount if he doesn't already have enough, from the actions taken because of this bill. Americans will get poorer. Some Americans will lose livelihoods, which can lead to the loss of property, maybe even homes in the worst instances. But Zuckerberg and the rest of the Meta HQ will be insurmountably richer. And if you need further evidence that this entire ploy is nothing but an economic strong-arm tactic by the United States, look at the counter-proposal they offered to TikTok in order to avoid the ban. You mentioned this just a minute ago, Jesse. Sell us the app. Sell the app to a private US company and we're all good. Never mind the fact that TikTok willingly moved their US servers to Texas, comply with every security request the US forced on the app to ensure American data safety. If this were truly about American safety, it would have ended when TikTok complied with the aforementioned security measures. But it didn't, because the US doesn't care about that. It only wants the money and the power. That's all this is really about. And for the record, were TikTok to be sold, which ByteDance indicated would never happen, who in the US do you think has the money and resources to make such a purchase? If you said Meta, yeah, you'd probably be correct. Meta and a handful of other extremely rich companies. So now we're full circle. Meta wins if TikTok's banned. Meta wins if TikTok is sold. Is this a coincidence? No. No, it isn't. Because Meta has a few more cards in play than many may realize. Between January and April of 2024, Meta spent $7.6 million lobbying Congress over issues including, you may have guessed it, cybersecurity, content policy, data security, of course, China. Meta shattered its own lobbying records during this period. And one can only stop and infer what the intention was behind this insanely expensive, unprecedented lobbying presence. And for those of you listening, this information is publicly available. Per the Lobbying Disclosure Act of 1995, you can find this stuff yourself. Listen, I'm not here to say that TikTok's awesome and great, and we should all frame a picture of a Show Z shoe in our homes or whatever. No, I have my own problems with TikTok. I do believe the algorithm and the format in which the app functions is designed for maximum addictive attention, and that the app itself is ruining the attention spans of kids and further leading us down this slippery slope that inevitably leads to us never taking our eyes off a phone screen. I get that. I do believe that. I recognize that as a political analyst, political bubbles fueled by social media such as TikTok have been the bane of our existence, the very antagonist our show hopes to defeat. I understand that the threat of China is a very real thing, and we should be more concerned over the influence foreign adversaries have on the American public and our continuously weakening democracy. But this charade, this economic stunt, this capitalist hit job, as I like to call it, it doesn't solve any of those issues. There will still be social media. There will still be political bubbles. There will still be bots on Instagram pushing anti-American propaganda to anyone who engages with those posts. Now there might be more, now that content moderation is going away. And you will still be buying shitty knockoff products on Temu, giving the CCP all of your delicious data. What we will have, guaranteed, as a result of this ban, is poorer Americans and richer CEOs. That is why I oppose this ban. Because it's not done in good faith. I can't look past all the hands and all the money that's in this, that's fueling this. It's not about TikTok, the application. It's about capitalism, really. Like, America is founded on the idea of a free market, or quote-unquote free market, free-ish market, right? Where people come and they have the opportunities to create products, to sell those products, to make money, to make it big. That is the American dream, right? So what are we saying when we have a stunt like this that's basically saying, well, guess what? We can just decide, fuck off. Sell it to the bigger guy or fuck right off. That's not American. That's very much anti-American. That's anti the American dream. I feel strongly about it because like it just feels like it goes against what this nation is supposed to be all about, you know? But that's what I got for you. That's my expose. Jesse, you have the floor.
I'm sorry. I respect everything you just said, and I think there's validity in a lot of it. But I can't help but... Here's the issue that I have with how the debate over TikTok and the ban always seems to go. I feel like we're arguing about who should rule the 7 kingdoms when the real issue at hand is the fucking Night King is approaching the wall with an army of dead people. And yes, I realize that's a trivialization of this, but you glance off the issue of China and China's motives. Like somehow that's just like not involved. We're not privy to what the members of Congress, who in a bipartisan fashion overwhelmingly saw or voted in favor of this ban. And I know you're saying, oh, well, that's because it's about money, it's about capitalism. And maybe for some of them that's true. But there's plenty of people who are or not, big money people in Congress who supported this forced sale of TikTok. And you know what changed their mind? They were super, super skeptical until they got the briefings, or the intelligence briefings from the intelligence community about how TikTok works and how it works. And we're not even talking about the data. Like that's the talking point. That's the line. You say it's not in good faith. I'll agree with you there. The data piece about, oh, well, they're stealing our data. Yeah, they're stealing our data in a whole bunch of different ways. The issue with TikTok is that they have figured out how to manipulate people and manipulate voters. And doing so specifically from an outside perspective without any sort of oversight into how they do it. We don't know how their algorithm works. We don't. We have no insights into that. And this argument that, oh, well, they moved their servers to Texas. I'm sorry, they're still not operating under U.S. laws in terms of how the information is processed and how they target. And so in my discussions, I have a friend who is in the intelligence community. And I can share this. I have been allowed. He said that I can share this. I can't say who he is. But he has told me about how TikTok works to manipulate people and how China has used it already to manipulate young people into hating their government. And it starts like this. It starts with one video of something that is 100% factual. It is 100% factual, and it is not something that you would see on the news in any given day. And, it could be something about Israel and Gaza. It could be something about murders, at the hands of police. And it's 100% accurate, and it gets you to trust it because you can then look that up, and you can prove that that thing is 100% accurate from a legitimate source. Well, the next week it gives you something similar, same source. It gives you something that is 75%, 80% accurate, but it lacks context. Now, you can look up and see that it's, that there's truth to it, and you probably don't do any digging any further than that. The average American doesn't do any digging beyond that because they already believe from the first time that it's 100% true. The next week it's 50% true. All the way until it is 0% true, complete propaganda, but because it came from a source that you now trust and have trusted for weeks and weeks on end, you believe that to be 100% true. And that is how the misinformation has started and how it takes hold amongst the population.
Let me interject here because you mentioned the source, right? So are you saying that it's the same person releasing videos of varying truths? Or are they seeing like unrelated videos that just are of the same content but of varying degrees of truth?
Varying degrees of truth. Yes, it's not always the exact same
So that's
person.
not trusting the same. That's not trusting the source.
Right, but if you believe
TikTok isn't the source of
but
that.
if you believe the subject line, if you believe on this one specific subject that you have seen one thing, and then it fuels you with more and more stories relating to that one thing that are not necessarily true, that is how you get radicalized. And that is how people get radicalized. And it's not just coming from China, but China is, of course, I can just say this, like, until someone goes to China, until you go to China and see how it works, you cannot understand that there is no separation between a company that is owned in China. There is no capitalist system. The CCP is involved in everything. And you think that they have a company within their purview that answers to them, regardless of what anyone says, it answers to them before it answers to us. They have more oversight over the company than we do. You're telling me that China, whose best weapon is getting us to hate each other, it's their absolute best weapon whatsoever, is not going to use that? Is not already using that for their own purposes? They're not going to use the most effective weapon they ever have, which is the most addictive algorithm in the history of social media and the history of technology? I'm not against TikTok in its existence. I get tired of people, kind of talking and debating, and this was not your argument at all, but people debating like the free speech thing I think is silly. The argument about like, oh, well, it's just old people wanting to take away young people's kind of, means because they don't understand it. No, maybe we don't understand. Maybe we don't have access to the intelligence briefings that would show you how devious the CCP is and how they are using and therefore potentially could continue to use this app to manipulate voters into hating the country. And so I don't think that it's just like this is a bipartisan issue. I realize that you're framing it as if it's Meta is going to absorb all of this. They gave them an opportunity and they told them sell. And as Ketanji Brown Jackson, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, certainly no conservative here. It certainly sounds like it might be a unanimous 9-0 decision on the Supreme Court in favor of this forced sale ban, whatever you want to call it. She asked, wouldn't all of this be resolved if ByteDance were to sell the company? And it would, if they sold the company. And I know you say, oh, well, it could, but it doesn't have to be just owned by an American company. That's the thing. It can be owned by a different company from anywhere in the world other than the specific countries that you mentioned. And so, yeah, like I get that this reeks of money. Money is involved in everything. But from a national security perspective, the government does have a responsibility to protect us. And so, yeah, people are like, well, if they're stealing our data, why is the president on TikTok? Because that's not what it's really about. It's not about data. It's about manipulation. That's the reality. Is that the data thing is an easy thing to say because they are stealing our data through it. But from my source in the intelligence community, as well as what has been put out very publicly, the concern is not about them stealing data so much as figuring out ways to turn people against their own government and to make us hate each other even more than we already do. And at least for all Meta's issues, for all of the issues that exist with Zuckerberg and the billionaires in the United States, et cetera, for that matter, X/Twitter, all of it, they do answer in some way. They are accountable in some way in terms of how they are using this data. They have to show that, and they have to prove that they're not actively doing things to the detriment of the United States. They may be destroying us, as you said, in terms of our attention spans, in terms of our ability to do anything else, our productivity. But they do have to prove that they're not using it in a manner which undermines the stability and safety of the American public. And TikTok does not have to do that right now. And I don't feel comfortable living in a country where the most addictive thing that's on the phones of millions of people throughout this country, regardless of how I like it or not, is owned by a company that answers to the Chinese Communist Party. I'm sorry. I can't get over that. And so we can argue about the money and all of that stuff, but if it's even 5% possible that China can use this to manipulate voters, as I believe they already have, because there is a lot of people who did not vote in this last election because of TikTok. There are a lot of people who didn't. Yeah,
but you can substitute TikTok in that sentence for social media because the same thing happened in 2016.
It's not the same.
Yes, in 2016, no. Facebook was responsible, if you want to put responsibility on it, for all of the bots that were on Instagram and social media manipulating voters.
Okay, so here we go. How can you be anti what Meta is doing now, taking away the fact checkers, which I am. I think that's wrong that they're taking away from it. Regardless of free speech, I think if nothing else, they have a responsibility to protect us from foreign adversaries, which is what we saw in 2016 was Russia actively interfering in our election. Now, there are now laws that protect us from that sort of behavior. Now, it doesn't eliminate it, but it does protect us from some level of behavior. There's nothing we can do to entirely wipe out election interference from other countries. There's nothing we can do to do that, and forcing the sale of TikTok won't get rid of that from various actors. But Facebook was not the one manipulating people to vote certain ways.
No, and
it was users of Facebook that were doing it.
You are correct. You are correct. But, I mean, TikTok's the same thing. It's users.
No, it's not.
It's users. And, well, we don't know that.
But the algorithm is not.
We don't know that for a fact. You even said it. So those are closed-door meetings.
Doesn't that make you concerned?
Those were...
Doesn't the lack of knowing make you concerned?
Well, yes. I want to know what those security briefings were all about then. That's what we should be hearing.
You can't. That's not the way that intelligence works. You can't tell the Chinese... And you know why? Because there's spies in China that are giving us that information. And so the minute you put it out in the public, those spies are all of a sudden in danger of being shot. And disappearing forever. That's how intelligence works. You don't just publicly spread out intelligence to the community. There's a reason why there are certain levels of intelligence and security clearances within Congress.
Okay, I understand that, but you get that the not having that public knowledge intrinsically gives you a doubt. It gives me a doubt on the validity or the validity and the rationale that this, bipartisan decision was to ban the application. There is a doubt because we are not subject to the data that they get, the information briefings that they, even redacted versions of them. We get nothing. And so we can say, these people are great. That's ridiculous,
though. Hold on, though.
So you're telling me I have to trust
No. Hold
them
on.
And be you're right.
Hold on, respectfully. We don't have evidence of the moon landing. There's lots of things that we don't have evidence of. No, look, I believe in the moon landing. You know that. But there is a level of doubt of what's going on in terms of this. Why? Why is that ridiculous? You're talking like a conspiracy theorist.
No.
You're giving the same argument that conspiracy theorists give, which is, if they're not giving us the information, then how am I supposed to know? Now I have doubt of everything.
We should have doubt. Conspiracy theorists aren't just, I have doubt. Conspiracy theorists is I came up with a whole ridiculous notion because of that doubt. I'm not...
Your conspiracy theory is that this is all about money and has nothing to do with...
But you see public Chinese information that leads... I'm not saying it has nothing to do with Chinese information. I'm sure that has some involvement. But what I'm saying
if it has
is that there is
5% of it, isn't that enough? Isn't that enough? Even if it's 5% true, isn't that enough? For me, it is. For me, it totally is. If
I'm just saying,
chance,
sure, if there's a 5% chance, yeah, we should be taking every manner of precaution against foreign adversaries. I get that. But here's the thing. If that's true, if that is true, if they're genuinely concerned about foreign influence like that, then should they not be treating all other Chinese-based companies the same way?
No, not one. If those countries have access to an algorithm that actively is undermining the United States, then absolutely they should.
Then why are there so many restrictions in the bill that only target TikTok? Why are they not targeting the other social media platforms that very much exist in the US, that they just don't have the gazillions of users that they're trying to target?
Because they don't have the following, and the reason they don't have the following is because it's not the same product. They don't have the algorithm.
But if it's operated by China, then the threat is the same.
The threat is the same, but it's not on the same scale. And if it reaches that scale, they will be under that same law. If it reaches over 1 million people using it, 1 million active users, then it will be under the same restrictions. So this is where I'm confused. The law pretty much covers any other company that would do the same thing, that would pose the same risk.
I suppose so, but you can't deny again, you're talking about public information accessible to us versus private that we're not. And I get that there is a lot of information we are not privy to, and we have to have some inherent trust that people in Congress are doing right by whatever intelligence briefings that they are receiving. Sure. I guess I can trust the government and the politicians. I suppose so. But here's the thing. You also can't deny, and this is going to go into a different section of my argument, not to really heel turn here, but you can't deny that, there is still no answer to the impact it will have on Americans that make money off of this app. Why isn't there any part of this bill that addresses that? Anything that helps actual Americans in a way that...
There is.
Like what? There's nothing in the bill that says it's going to...
Sell the company.
That doesn't help Americans.
It will continue.
That doesn't help Americans. It doesn't
hurt. If the company was sold
if it did, sure. But then giving an ultimatum to a company that doesn't give a shit about Americans doesn't help Americans. They know that they're not going to sell.
Okay, so wait. So you're saying that because a company is saying, no, we won't follow the law, the American government should back down and be like...
I'm not saying they should back down.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let us accommodate you because you won't follow our laws.
It's not about backing down. It's just about the impact it will have.
The impact sucks. I'm not going to disagree with that. The impact sucks. TikTok has been beneficial for a lot of people who have made their livings off of it. That is a major downfall of this. But that is not the U.S. government's fault for protecting their citizens. I'm sorry. Their first goal is to protect their citizens. That is the first thing they have to do. And so you're prioritizing money. You want to say it's about money. You're prioritizing money over public safety. And I'm sorry. I will take the public safety over the money. I will. I'm choosing that.
That's the thing. We go back to this argument of I see the public evidence that leads towards this, the financial, I guess, just generally the financial issues surrounding this, both the money in the bill and the impact on Americans. I see that. We can identify that. And the alternative, this public safety thing, this argument, doesn't have that. There's nothing I can grip onto that says, oh yeah, there is the issue. The only thing I can grip onto in terms of in the interest of public safety is trusting that the intelligence briefings said what I hope is enough of an argument to politicians. That's a bit of a hard thing for me to hang on to, I can't. That's not like a fact I can grip onto. That's a trust.
Tough. That's what I say. That sucks. That's tough. But that is what having a government is. You do have to sometimes trust that they do have your best interests in mind. And I'm not saying always. And yeah, trust but verify, all of that. There's plenty of evidence that TikTok is using this And it's not
We
just
believe
like,
that there's plenty of evidence. We don't
There-
know that there is plenty of evidence. We believe that there is.
Well-
We hope that there is plenty of evidence. Because if there wasn't, then we're all being fucked, right?
go to China.
But if there is,
Go to China and
listen.
tell me, bro. Just go to China. Like,
I'm not trying to
sorry.
say that China's great. China's terrible. I get that. I am not in disagreement with that. I know
China is
the
great.
laws
The
in China.
CCP is fucking horrible.
I know that the CCP has rules that force a branch of the CCP to be created with every like company that exceeds a certain like market value or something like that. I've seen those also. I know they exist. Believe it or not, I know my shit about this. But here's the thing.
I'm not
here's the
saying.
thing.
I'm just.
I know. I'm telling you that I know that. But that's one thing. And yes, there are. I'm not going to deny that the CCP hooks are in ByteDance and in TikTok. Of course, that is common sense when you look at the laws of China.
But you just said that you have doubt about it. You just said that you have doubt about it.
I have doubt because I have not been presented with any actual evidence of the utilization of the application for the indoctrination of Americans in a way that is different than any other social media that we have access to. I get that it's possible. I get that it may even be kind of sort of likely, but I don't see anything that says it is happening.
So
you'd think we kind of need that.
no, we don't. We don't need that. Like, you're saying that you believe that it's theoretically possible. This is a bill to prevent it from happening. If that's the case, even if it's not happening now, this is a bill to prevent it from potentially happening in the future. That's the reality. Like, I mean, you're sitting here telling me that you believe it's possible. But then you're telling me that you need evidence that it's happening. If it's possible, that's enough for me. Sign me up. I'm sorry. Somebody else can run TikTok, and somebody else will. When we talk about the financial impact, those people are going to find their way onto a different platform. The vast majority of them are going to find their way onto a different platform if they have to. And I'm still not entirely sure that at the last minute TikTok isn't going to make a deal where this gets averted. Because we're running down to the wire, and the reality is ByteDance has every motivation to want to make money off of this. Why would they, like you're saying, play hardball. Is hardball really the smart option for them? If we're talking about capitalism and all of this, like, if it's not about CCP interest over the organization, why hasn't ByteDance already sold it? All of this stuff, all of these arguments about why TikTok and the forced sale is bad, so many of them come from TikTok. The people I talk to have the points about why they believe the ban is bad. They get their news from TikTok. I look at it like this. So it's this is not even like a serious thing. Last year, the Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker, whatever, made a really obnoxious kind of speech at a Catholic college, a very, very conservative Catholic college, that I didn't agree with personally. It was offensive to a lot of people. Talked about how, most women find their purpose solely in being a mother and a wife. A week after that, not even a week after that, there was a fake series of tweets that went viral on TikTok and were seen by 70 million people in the span of less than 24 hours. That was entirely fake, that made him look even worse. Made it look like he doubled down on it. Made it look like... And I tell you what, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to in the last 9 months who use TikTok. And I've
then
brought
that's
that
their
story
fault
up,
for not
and
looking
they
into a
remember the
story. I mean,
they had no idea that what they were told was
that's
fake.
just mindfulness
They
on
believed that
not being
tweet
deceived by fake
was
news.
real.
Something that apparently a lot of people are
That's-
going to be deceived by on Facebook moving forward. But right.
Of course, and that's why I disagree with what Meta is doing, and it's also why I support forcing TikTok to go to have some level of oversight to ensure that they're not doing this purposefully. All I'm saying is that's like the most simple of things. that like people bought
Yes,
into.
it's a matter of
and it
matter of
seemed
people not
believable
fact checking
enough,
their sources.
And like
I get
9
that,
months
and
later,
we
people
try
still
to endorse
believe it,
people. Always
and
check
that's
your
a
sources.
trivial
Always
thing.
read your. Always make sure you're on top of your stuff whenever you read something online. That's anywhere online. But I guess that's my main point. Is that that's just the internet. That's not TikTok. That's the internet. The same level of mindfulness that you carry into TikTok is the same level of mindfulness you should carry into anything on the internet. So
I agree.
Like, to say that it's so much worse on this one app and so much worse that we have to eliminate it from the entire country, to me is like, well, I mean, why can't we just be mindful instead of like, getting rid of everything? Why can't we just be mindful?
No.
Why can't we just promote mindfulness instead? People need to be smarter anyway.
Yes. American people, be smarter and be on the lookout for being manipulated by China when you're using social media apps, because the American government won't protect you from this Chinese-controlled, incredibly addictive algorithm. Like, again, sorry, like, you acknowledged that it is possible that they can do this. That's enough for me. Like, that's where the conversation ends. All right, well, I hope you all have enjoyed this dialogue back and forth. We obviously did not change each other's perspectives on this, but it's the sort of dialogue that we need to have. We need to continue to have in the days ahead, and in the months and years ahead, and being mindful of the fact that this debate here was not a partisan debate. This was just a different perspectives on a major issue in our public sphere, and I think it's important to acknowledge that it's not always partisan. It's not always right-left. There are disagreements that we're going to have in life, and you can have it with your friends, and you can be respectful. I love the guy. I think he's brilliant here across from me most of the time, but we're not going to always agree on this. But I do feel smarter after this conversation from hearing his perspectives. I do feel a generally better understanding of why people would oppose the ban or the forced sale of TikTok on grounds other than just free speech and they love TikTok. And I appreciate you providing me with those insights, even if it doesn't change my overall
This
opinion.
is what
It
rational
does
discourse
give
is.
me
People
a
who
more
can,
enlightened
through
perspective
disagreement and through
on
discourse,
the debate at hand.
learn
I hope it has
things
done that for
and
our
come out
listeners
a
as well.
more whole person, regardless of whether or not you were convinced. Was I convinced by Jesse's argument? No, not really. He wasn't convinced by mine either. But that's not the point. Winning is not the point of discourse. It should never be the point of discourse. The point of discourse is to learn. In our little back and forth here, Jesse, I've learned quite a bit about the very real threat that China has on the American public. You're right. I'm never going to get intelligence briefings as much as I would like to. And there's probably good reason for that, even if I disagree. Hey, man. I'm like Edward Snowden, bro. Free the information.
Because we would have just told the entire world literally everything that existed in them. But yes, on that same note, again, I've learned a lot about this, as I said, and it's not just different perspectives, but also, again, about the bill itself, like getting to understand the inner workings of the bill and as intricately and as eloquently as you described them is really insightful for me and certainly shapes my opinion. Again, I do think that it goes beyond kind of this capitalist mentality, but I also the factor of like who takes over and buys TikTok and what that looks like, going forward if it were to be sold, is a very, very good point, and again, does look murky. I understand the murkiness and the suspicion. I guess my priorities are just on a different aspect of the debate. You can have these sorts of dialogues with people you disagree with on any number of things. And I'm just so grateful to be able to have that dialogue with you, Tyler, and also to be able to share it with everyone else. I hope you all learned something.
Yeah, let's
but
go.
I guess we
Have
should
a fun
move
one.
on now
Because I'm going back to
our
ads on
favorite
YouTube
segment.
for a second time now. My things we can all agree on is actually more of
Tyler,
a
you
question
wanna go first?
than it is a soapbox. And my question is this. How many ads are too many ads on a YouTube video? Recently, I've noticed a significant increase in ads on certain YouTube videos. And in my opinion, it's just getting ridiculous. Back in the day, and I'm say back in the day, like from like 03, 04, whenever YouTube kind of got big to like, let's just say 2015, you would receive like on any like given video, you get like a 15-second ad more or less, right? And that'd be it. While mildly annoying, I accepted this as a very small inconvenience, and it was certainly still a massive upgrade when compared to the minutes of TV ads we would have to sit through every 15 minutes, right, on cable. But recently, the sheer volume of ads that are being put out on some YouTube videos are rivaling even classic cable TV ad times, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know. I recognize that ad placement is in some part controlled by the creator that publishes the video. Like they can say like, I want one ad or no ads or like 15 million ads. I recognize that. But there really should be, in my opinion at least, a limitation on just how much garbage we have to sit through before getting to the content we came for. Because like 2-3 minutes of ads is ridiculous if I clicked on a 3-minute video. I mean, come on. There's more ads than video in that case. So how many ads are too many ads? Well, I have an opinion. I think it's appropriate to have one 15-second ad in the beginning of the video. That's it. But if the video is like over an hour long or something, throw a second 15-second ad. I'm just giving you a bone. You can have a second one right in the middle. Like ad break. But pushing it to like 1.5 minutes, 2-3+ minutes of ads littered throughout like 15-minute video, that's excessive. That's ridiculous. And no, I will not be buying YouTube Premium. You can't make me. You can't. I refuse.
Well, you know what? I didn't realize that we were going to have such a well-paired things we can all agree on here. But I, on that note, am going to say that there is one thing we should be all able to agree on. Movie previews are too damn long. And listen, I like previews. I do. They're fun. They're like the breadsticks at Olive Garden. You don't go there for them, but you'll happily munch away while you wait for the main course. But lately, previews aren't breadsticks anymore. They're the whole damn meal. It's like they bring you a basket of baguettes, followed by focaccia, sourdough, and garlic knots, until you're full before the entree even fucking arrives. Then you settle into your seat, the lights dim, and you think, here we go, it's starting. And then, hi, I'm Maria Menounos. Let's take a look at some behind-the-scenes moments you didn't know you needed. Maria, no! No, Maria, I don't need this. I didn't come here to watch a feature-length documentary about how soda gets into the cup. And then the trailers start, and they just don't stop. You've got the loud action movie, the heartwarming animated film, the quirky indie comedy, and because it's a rule now, at least one superhero movie. Always a superhero movie. Sometimes two. And why are we watching trailers for movies that don't come out for years? Why do I need to know about the next Marvel movie in 2026? By the time it comes out, I'll be 3 jobs and 4 streaming subscriptions away from caring. And look, you don't know how many streaming services I can go through in 1 year. And don't get me started on the trailers that give away everything. Romantic comedies, I'm looking at you. They show us the meet cute, the awkward first date, the big breakup, and the teary airport reunion. You've just given me the whole movie in 2 minutes. What am I paying for? Unless Sydney Sweeney's in it, then I know what I'm paying for. Then there are the mysterious ones. The slow, dramatic shots of a guy staring into the distance while ominous music plays. A shadow moves, cut to black, and then all it says is, coming soon. Coming soon what? A movie? A TV
I'm pretty sure
show?
you just
A
described
cult? I have no
Scorsese's
fucking
silence.
idea, but I'm intrigued, and now I've wasted 2 minutes of my life trying to figure it out. I don't even know what the fucking movie is about. That movie, don't get me started on that movie. Talk about 3 hours of boring. And can we talk about the fake endings? You're sitting there thinking, okay, it's got to be the last one. And suddenly, bam! Another trailer starts. It's like those waiters who keep bringing you food after you've already asked for the check. Here's a little something extra. No, please, I'm full. Leave me alone. No, I do not want dessert. By the time the actual movie starts, you've already finished your popcorn, you've downed your soda, and you've started Googling how to sue for emotional damages. Look, I'm not saying get rid of previews. Previews are great, but can we rein it in? Maybe cap it at 5 trailers, just enough to get us excited without feeling like we've aged a year in the process. Because at this point, the real plot twist isn't in the movie. It's realizing that by the time it finally starts, you've forgotten what you came to see in the first place. Thank you for coming to my
That's
TED
incredible. And you know what?
Or, as they'd call it
I
in the
only
theater,
have one thing to say about
another
that.
preview.
And that is that my toddler does in fact like to go to Olive Garden
That's
just
what
for
I
the
got.
breadsticks. So you know what?
That's
There
what
is
I got.
one. And they're unlimited, so I just leave him there forever. And he eats these breadsticks for all like 3 hours.
There is one.
I don't know if Olive
You
Garden's
know,
good taste, but it is certainly
This
a
makes
taste.
sense. This makes sense. Yeah, he's got good taste. He's got good taste. That is true. It is a taste for sure. But look. The breadsticks are on the table. Next time I go to Olive Garden, which is not very often, but next time I go to Olive Garden, I just want Nicole Kidman to come out to me and say, "We come to this place for breadsticks. We come to Olive Garden to laugh, to cry, to eat salad." Anyway, all right, folks. Well, we've gone off the rails here, but thank you guys so much for listening to our TikTok debate. We hope that you found it insightful. We hope that you found our criticism of ads and previews to be also insightful and to ring true to you. And if not, what is wrong with you?
Are you an ad?
Are you an ad? But as always, please follow us on Instagram. Continue to engage with us. That's at Reunited States Pod. You can follow us. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And keep having the hard discussions. Continue to have respectful discussions with the people that you love. And remember that you can always learn something from a discussion. Doesn't matter who you're talking to, you're hearing a different perspective from someone who has lived a different life than you. And as such, it's really important to not just write them off. With that, from Manchester, New Hampshire, my name is Jesse Saywell.
And from Los Angeles, California, my name is Tyler Eric.
And this has been Reunited States. When the whole world has got you down, and there's no one else